päällä kuin etäyhteyksien päässä. Tervetuloa seuraamaan tätä Kaksien sääntöjen Eurooppa-seminaarin toista puoliskoa. Nyt meillä on vuorossa englanninkielinen Keynote Speech aiheesta Origins of the European Transparency Initiative, also known as the ETI, and the European Future. Ja kutsun Anders Blumin lavalle esittelemään Keynote Speakerimme.
Ensinnäkin haluan kiittää Turun Sanomia ja sen entistä päätoimittajaa Jarmo Virmavirtaa, joka esitteli Siim Kallaksen meille ensimmäisen kerran turkulaisille vuonna 1987. Ja voin vakuuttaa teille, että Kallas piti täällä Turussa jo silloin hyvin kauaskantoisen puheen, mutta en mene siihen. Siim Kallas on yksi naapurimaamme Viron merkittävimpiä poliitikkoja, josta tuli Viron ensimmäinen Euroopan komission jäsen, ja hänen vastuulleen osui komissaarina hallintoasiat ja keskustelu avoimuusaloitteen syntymisestä, koska sitä edeltävä komissio ja sitä edeltävä komissio olivat joutuneet suuriin vaikeuksiin nimenomaan siitä, miten Euroopan instituutiot kohtaavat lobbaamisen. Ja nyt Kallas, joka on ollut useissa ministeritehtävissä Virossa ja on ollut pitkään komissaarina, on saapunut meidän vieraaksemme ja me olemme siitä hyvin kiitollisia. It's a time to invite you here, Siim, welcome, and tell us how everything started in Brussels in your point of view.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for this invitation, for this possibility to participate in seminar or conference, because nowadays this is not very widespread possibility. And of course, thank you very much, Professor Blum, for this nice introductory words. I have to apologize that I make my presentation in English because the issue and all the terms in English it's very difficult to translate into Finnish. And of course, I hope you enjoyed my presentation before it here about almost the same topics, but a little different still. And Anders asked me how it all started. And actually, the key word or key term is European Transparency Initiative. And actually, it started from 2004 when I was designated as a commissioner, and then I was invited to meet the future president, José Manuel Barroso, and he proposed me a portfolio of administration. And then we debated a little, and I asked that maybe you can give me a taxation portfolio, and then he said that if I will give you taxation portfolio, some member countries will leave. So administration. And then, of course, there was various details about it. It finally ended with a vice president's job and also responsibility for everything which can go wrong. Personnel policy, anti-fraud, then internal audit, and of course budget discharge. And this is now very important, which is in Finnish it means vastuunvapaus, and in Estonian we don't have actually this term, but the budget discharge is extremely important governance procedure in the European Union, and this process can be used to somehow to measure the reliability of the governance in European Union. And actually, of course, the impact of this process at this moment was very negative. And because, as Anders reminded as well, that Jacques Santer's commission had to resign due to a huge scandal created by then later my quite good friend Paul van Buitenen. In fact, the governance in the European Union was surrounded by enormous doubts, enormous suspicion. Now I had a very serious task to somehow to dissolve this suspicion and what to do. And what are the issues, how we can create more trust in decision-making in the European Union. And actually, European Transparency Initiative includes 3 points. One is strengthening and developing of codes of conduct, and actually, Madam from Ireland, who talked a lot about it and about this transparency. Of course, codes of conduct are very important, but they are linked to the lobby register, and this was also a very important part of this transparency initiative. Second very important part was opening of the information about end beneficiaries of European subsidies. And if you think that this was an easy task and easy and common understanding that, okay, let's publish all information about agricultural beneficiaries, you can only imagine what happened in Europe when we came out with this proposal. And third one was to create a lobby register. And here, the main topics, of course, I would with pleasure to talk about other issues as well, but here is the main topics is lobby register. So, and this public opinion considered that it's heavily influenced the decision-making by lobbying, and this is all very obscure, and so on, and we should make some kind of transparency move and to create a lobby register. Okay, then we started, actually I launched this initiative in Nottingham in March 2005, and it was created a huge turbulence because this was considered that it is some kind of personal initiative of one man only, and this was not a Commission official position and whatever, and so it was settled finally, and Commission took it as one important project as well, and so the Green Paper was published in 3rd of May 2006, and communications, the most important document, as you know, in the Commission was published in 21st of March 2007, and register started at 23rd of June 2008. Now, fine, everything is extremely looks great. But what was first of all, we approached the so-called, now we call them in-house lobbyists or business lobbyists. It means public relations company or all directly in-house lobbyists, for instance, Volkswagen and others, and they said they of course said that actually even more. First, it was the main sources of creation of this mistrust were various non-governmental organizations. This is even more important, and they constantly came and said that you cannot. Everything is so untransparent and unfair, and it must be to create a lobby register. And then we approached the real business lobbyists and asked that what is their opinion about it. And their opinion was that if you want it, you must involve everybody, including non-governmental organizations. And they brought a lot of examples how non-governmental organizations were extremely efficient lobbyists and worked against and served some business interests, but of course presenting themselves as some kind of very human or very fear was fighting for the right ideas, and there are these terrible and dirty business who are opposing them. And then we came to a main point of this exercise. We must create a lobby register and to make it on voluntary basis. And this is until today in Europe as well. I yesterday looked what is appears on the website of the Commission, and there is again a debate about voluntary or mandatory. Can you show this slide what I gave? So this is for illustration from yesterday. I made this especially here. This is a situation with the lobbyists today. So this is 11,000 altogether. It is for some reasons it's not the number here, but it is 11,842 entries. 11,000. And you see what is important here. You see here the various groups of interest representatives. And in-house lobbyists are more or less clear. Then it's non-governmental organizations. They also agreed. They were very upset at the beginning that why should they be there, and this is not. But we had also the opinions that then must be also non-governmental organizations. They finally agreed. Then it's of course huge various battles, and this is clearly you can see here, and you can imagine what means when I approach think tanks that you are also in some certain regard lobbyists. Of course, was very opposed. Then of course churches and religious communities. They were the last ones who finally were involved in these exercises. And of course, what was today many times mentioned as well, the professional consultancies, but law firms. Of course, law firms fiercely opposed any idea to have some kind of opening of information. But finally, they were also, due to, I don't know how we succeeded to make it, to pressure to have them also included in this register. But the approach of vast majority of all these interest representatives was, if we do it voluntarily, everybody must be in. And of course, the critical point was 2008, when the various operators started to register. And then we thought that what will happen now if there will be only a couple of registers, but very soon there were 1,000, and then we considered that it was a success. And I only must say, and I clearly also can realize that this is not a commonly widespread view, but my strong conviction is that if we would have the idea to create a legislation concerning the lobby register, we are working until today with this register. Because to make it mandatory register, it's extremely complicated. All organizations have different specifics. So you don't have any problems with, in fact, you have very little problems with real in-house lobbyists. first of all, if it's Volkswagen, it's not the problem. Then we need it. How big money do you put in this exercise? But also it was possible. Then more complicated was with these companies who represent, or public relations companies who are representing various interests. But they also agreed that if we don't ask commercial details of their commercial contracts, and because this is a competition issue and competitiveness issue for them, then we created a certain rules that we understand the magnitude, the biggest clients, and the magnitude of their activities also in financial terms. Fine, agreed. But then, of course, NGOs. This was, of course, an interesting exercise. Some of them said, no problem. They have certain small budget. They don't have problem to inform public opinion or society what is the source of their budget. Fine. But some of them tried to last moment to avoid the publication of any information about their financial sources of their financing. And finally, you know, I don't want to mention concrete companies because it can create also some turbulence, but very big and very influential non-governmental organizations were funded by, for instance, very big capitalist corporations. Of course, funds, and you must not suspect, or you must not have a doubt that this is in a really goodwill and real good purposes to somehow influence and help to change society. But of course, you can change differently, can think differently as well. And of course, they didn't want to open this for them. And they, for instance, they created various tricks how to. They said that this is a source of information is some kind of international organization, and then we went to the international sources of this international organization, and then I found that they are financed by big pharmaceutical corporations, which are one of the most sensitive issue of lobbying in at European level. You can imagine, it's pharmaceutical. It's very, very interesting. And of course, then to convince, but then it's of course convince a law firm, and then we agreed simply that of course we don't need the information about everything. We need only this part, and this goes also to all religious organizations. If you want to influence and you have some proposal and it is legitimate, this is also very important. We convinced especially the in-house lobbyists that that's your problem as well. It's not our problem that we are making decisions in some obscure manner. It's your problem as well that your activities are unfair and illegal or half criminal or something like that. You are legitimate participants of the decision-making process. We should have your opinion. This is legitimate. So let's do it together. And then it was also concerning the think tanks, and we don't want to have your information, everything. We want to have this part where you come to the European Commission and later also to the European Parliament in 2011 and come with some kind of proposal, and then we want to know some details, some background of your proposals. But of course it's and it started to work. So still it's I think if you see that 11,800 are there, and this is now I have sometimes asked my colleagues and in the European Commission as well at how it works, and it's everything. This lobby transparency has been introduced into habits of the Commission. It is, if you are in register, You can be consulted, you can have meetings. If you are not in the register, you practically are not invited to anywhere. And even at the beginning, the communication says that no, if interest representatives are not in register, they still can present their recommendations or advices as individuals. But in fact, of course, was very clear very soon that they don't have, they have no approach to this to the decision making in the European Commission. And of course, everything is registered, so it's also from Commission side must be fixed or must be registered all the meetings as well. And of course, there are also funny things that my colleague said to me that what the hell, what have you done? That now I have to consult in some proposal with 60 organizations, and I said that okay, take it with common sense that but of course they have the right to have their proposals, but somehow you can manage it in reasonable manner. And it's also possible. And then, of course, another funny thing was that one man approached me and in a reception and said that, you know, I am a producer of very specific locks, very specific. And I created, and I want also to be informed when something is in legislation concerning my interests and our interest, and I form an association of these lock producers. And there is still only one member. Of course, but it was a joke, so seriously, there is no association of special producers of locks. But anyway, these were the main points. And of course, lot of things are still open. And what is, I even have many times asked but what about governments? So governments are not, of course, included in lobby register. And of course, the government's influence is a main influence in the decision-making process at the European level. And so if you want to really to influence, then you should first talk to your government ministers, and they can somehow participate in this discussion. But anyway, the decision-making in the European Union is nothing obscure, and it works. Of course, governments' interests are representing governments are representing the interests of their countries, and this is completely logical and legitimate process. So this was answer now the question to Anders asked that how did it start? This is a description, how did it start and how this is. Now, of course, as I said, a certain point, and it's the same in Estonia. First of all, in Estonia, a discussion has started. Do we need a lobby register or not? From the beginning, I was asked many times in Estonia, and I said that no, it's too small. You know, Brussels and Washington, these are very specific places. And of course, a place for various mixing of various interests. They are the huge forums. But of course, small country has a different views. But still, now I have to start also to think at certain moment how to describe describe how and who is really working to representing the interests, especially where everybody in public opinion is discussing that behind these or another project in parliament there are big money from these and these sources. So we should somehow reflect this and to reflect this public opinion. So this is a very much open opinion of society, which then should be taken into account. That is that necessary, this register, but also the details are different, because this volume, this magnitude is very big, and it's to formalize this magnitude is no, you know, you cannot handle this without formalizing certain aspects. But in small countries, and especially countries which don't have very big corruptive historical, I'd say, experience, then it's should be reasonably think that what I would suggest certainly is that this lobby register cannot suddenly appear as some kind of bureaucratic monster, which is then will be burden for everybody, including with all these actors who want to create this as a something good, addressing public opinion. But of course, it is for Finnish Finnish society, it is your decision and your to assess how serious this is and how this is considered as a problem or not. And of course, I would end with this this note on that it worked on voluntary basis, and I am strongly I know then we studied the experience. For instance, United States, there is nothing voluntary. It is all in legislative shape, or such very thick legislative proposals. But we all know, and there are of course numerous films, of course, but even seriously thinking, it doesn't work in the United States. It's still, of course, interest representatives have numerous possibilities to evade. As you know, in presidential campaigns, there are special some kind of bodies created which can take money and other thing, and this is an easy and not so easy one. Okay, but these are probably the main. I don't want to go to all these. Details which are in how to this is built up, but again I must say that the lobby register is one part. Lobby register is not good name because the interest representatives covers a wider spectrum, and then it's better to not to use especially lobby, which is, as you know, corridor in Washington, and it's not it's very famous, and not such a word which is probably itself as a tool to addressing better transparency. But this is, and of course, again. I just must conclude that this is lobbying is a legitimate process, and it's our common interest. This was our starting point that for Commission to have a legitimacy, reliability of governance, which was seriously damaged, as Anders said, when Santer's Commission resigned, and it is a common interest to create reliable governance, and then it was done. So this was so it has. Anders asked how did it start. Thank you so much.
We have time for some questions, but I do believe that Anders Blom has something he would like to conclude.
Is it working? Yes. Thank you, Siim, because you took this statistics. Thanks to my dissertation, I have been following this statistics for about since it was established. And you know what? We had in June 18,600 registrants. So there is now about 6,000 missing, thanks to Corona, because it was 11,000 something you mentioned. Then I would like to tell that when you mentioned that this register started 2008, we had a new Minister of Foreign Affairs in April 2008, Mr. Alexander Stubb. And he was the member in the parliament who made this presentation of the transparency register. And what I would like to say that this is one part of the idea of this seminar, that we have really two rules, because since that 2008, when we had our own member of parliament, we have been waiting for this process. So this is now 12 years.
So now we still have time for questions, if you please. Okay. So I believe you were quite thorough.
Clear.
Yeah, you were clear and thorough. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for listening.